They thought the nightmare had ended, but it's only just begun. Russia is running out of men. The first wave was shattered. The second bled dry in Bakhmut's killing fields. And now, the third wave is coming. But these aren't battle-hardened warriors. They're ditch diggers, dragged from their homes, trained not with rifles, but with shovels. And what happens when a crumbling empire starts to draft the unprepared?
When the Russians first came in February of 2022, they had about 140,000 men. They then did a partial mobilization that is as confirmed as anything as we can get with Russian data that brought in another 300,000. But if you're talking 100,000 injured throughout the war, 100,000 specifically in Bakhmut, and another at least 100,000 dead, that's the entire mobilization. So we're probably looking at a second partial mobilization, maybe 200, maybe 250,000. But that doesn't leave Russian forces with all that many more troops than they started with, and these new troops aren't going to be nearly as skilled, which argues that the Ukrainians are going to have a relatively easy time of things. Most of these new recruits haven't really been in battle. They've been building anti-tank fortifications. And I don't know about you guys, but I've never built an anti-tank fortification myself. And if you were mobilized over the course of the last 90 days to build tank fortifications, I would argue that maybe they're not the best anti-tank fortifications that could be built.
That's when the real collapse begins, that Russia's war machine is burning through bodies faster than it can replace them. This next wave? Undertrained, untested, and tragically unready. What was once a formidable invasion force is now a desperate shell, relying on unproven hands to stop an army that has already survived the worst. If the last segment showed us anything, it's that Russia is bleeding men, morale, and momentum. But what happens when Ukraine decides that enough is enough? What happens when a nation under siege turns desperation into innovation and begins to fight not just harder, but smarter? The answer is terrifying for Putin, because Ukraine just went full beast mode. And what's coming next isn't just another wave of drones. It's an aerial onslaught unlike anything we've seen in modern warfare. It started with a hum in the sky. Then came the explosions. Ships sunk in harbors. Ammo depots incinerated. Convoys turned to ash. Ukraine's drone war has always been fierce, but now it's gone nuclear. In what can only be described as a seismic shift in modern warfare, Ukraine has increased its drone production by 900%. Let that sink in. 900%. Last year, Ukraine was building around 20,000 drones per month. That was already enough to wreak havoc on Russia's Black Sea Fleet and punch holes into deep Russian territory. But now, in a single month of 2025, Ukraine is producing 200,000 drones. That's more drones in 1 month than the entire total built during all of 2024. If this pace continues, we're looking at over 2.4 million drones flooding Ukraine's skies by the end of the year. This isn't just a production surge. It's an industrial revolution with wings. And while Putin scrambles to understand what hit him, Ukraine is already looking to push the limits even further. Right now, 200,000 drones per month is the new normal. But Ukraine's leaders are clear. This is only the beginning. The country's production lines are humming, its engineers are working day and night, and the ambition is sky high, both literally and figuratively. But what makes this possible? It's not just about numbers, it's about strategy, partnerships, and foresight. According to a recent joint study by the Georgetown Security Studies Review and the Atlantic Council, Ukraine has quietly built the backbone of a wartime drone industry. But if it's going to take this 900% leap into a full-scale drone-dominated war, two things are key: long-term production systems and technological investment. First, intellectual property. Patents may seem like a boring legal concept during wartime, but they're critical. Right now, many of Ukraine's drones aren't officially patented, and that might be on purpose. Because once you patent a drone, you expose its design. And Ukraine isn't interested in handing Russia the blueprints for its airborne assassins. Still, in the long term, patents, or at least secure manufacturing protocols, will be essential for scaling production safely, consistently, and internationally. Ukraine needs to maintain quality across millions of units, and patents or standardized operating procedures are the foundation of that effort, especially if allies are to join in the drone-building frenzy. And allies are joining in. On July 7th, Aviation Week dropped a bombshell. Ukraine has partnered with SwiftBeat LLC, a shadowy drone company linked to none other than Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google. This company, born in secrecy in August 2023, is now expected to deliver hundreds of thousands of drones to Ukraine before the year is over. Reconnaissance drones, interceptors, targeting systems, kamikaze UAVs, and medium-class strike drones, a mysterious new class whose potential has yet to be revealed. And that's just the U.S. connection. Ukraine is also taking the fight offshore, literally. On July 7th, it signed a landmark agreement with Denmark, allowing Ukrainian defense companies to open factories on Danish soil. Why is this so critical? Because if Putin tries to bomb drone factories inside Ukraine, he might succeed. But he won't dare bomb factories inside Denmark. That would be crossing a line he might not survive. This is strategic brilliance. Build abroad, ship weapons home. And if Putin's drones can't reach those production lines, then Ukraine has created a virtually indestructible drone supply chain. And then there's the UK deal.